sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. This is a show that a stand-up comedian does with her sister, who's a therapist.
Hello, my name is Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist.
If you listened last week, you understand that we're doing part 2 of our topic, things he did and we stayed, or things they did and we stayed. We're not going to gender this. So we saw a TikTok, Laura sent me a TikTok of 2 women listing out ridiculous things their partners had done, and then they still stayed with them after that. And so Laura and I have made our own list. It's a part 2 because it's a long list, you guys.
It turns out Virginia and I have been heavily traumatized by our romantic partnerships.
So speaking of trauma, trigger warning, if you're an ex-boyfriend, just go ahead and don't listen to this one.
Also, if you're ever wondering why I'm single, this is why.
It's a real good list. I was being very supportive with this person when they said that they wanted to try writing. And anytime they said they wanted to do anything, I was super supportive. I'm like, yeah, having a creative outlet is super good for you and super good for your brain and your life quality. They had a short story they wanted me to read over. I don't remember what they wanted me to look for or were asking about, but I had like grammar suggestions. They screamed at me and said they didn't need that sort of help.
Yeah, I've had that experience many times with many men.
It really makes you want to help.
You know, it's interesting. It actually makes me want to do the opposite. These are competency things, right? You don't understand me. You don't get me. Like, you're weird. After leaving a party, an ex-boyfriend of mine spent an hour telling me about all the ways that I have embarrassed him with my poor social skills.
What did he find fault with? Do you remember?
I was talking too much. Wasn't reading the room. I was saying inappropriate things. I was, quote, being too weird, end quote.
I've known you a long time, and I can say that 100% of those things are true.
I'm sure. If that's not the kind of girlfriend you want to date, you shouldn't date me, because I'm that way 365.
All the time.
24/7, even in my sleep.
I remember at one point, and I find my sister fantastically funny. She's a scream. But at one point, she had been on a girls' trip, and they had to take her aside and say, will you please, for the love of God, stop saying, what?
It turns out that sometimes I can be obnoxious. But I think coming home from the party where I had a wonderful time.
Like, lovely time. Right. You left all rosy. Yeah. That was fun.
Like, what a great night. And I think I feel like, you know, this is a person we've already mentioned, but I think that for him, he didn't like me having a good time. He didn't want me to have a good time. He wanted me to only have a good time because of him. If I'm having a good time with other people, that's too threatening. So got to knock her down.
And if you had a good time and he didn't have a good time, like, that's the real problem.
Yeah. Well, I think in both of these cases, I put them together. I grouped them together because I feel like it's just the person basically telling you that they're not interested in you.
Speaking of being helpful, I was taking a Zoom acting class, and acting has always been like, it's weird because I've done a lot of it, but I still have super imposter syndrome about it all the time. When I look at the number of things that I've done and stuff that I've been involved with, I'm like, well, I've actually done a lot of acting, but I always lead with, I'm really a comic. I'm not an actor. So like, just know that it's a sore spot for me anyway. I was taking a remote acting class. I would have to have someone read with me to do the parts. And every single time I asked him to do anything, he picked a fight or told me I was doing something badly or told me I was doing something wrong, him who had not professionally acted in my experience, and just made me miserable. I had to stop taking the class because I'm like, I can't spend the whole day being in a bad mood because you are crapping on me. It's not worth it.
Was this like a live record, or was this like you're showing something you previously replayed or recorded or whatever?
It was basically like a self-tape audition that you would do now. Yeah. We would record it ahead of time. So my class didn't see the bad stuff, but I got to experience it.
Because he wanted to remind you that you weren't worth anything and you weren't good.
And out of 1,000 TikToks, maybe 1,200 TikToks, I asked him to participate in maybe 3. And each time it was a miserable experience.
Because what we're looking at in these cases is we're thinking, oh, this is just a bug. But you don't realize, no, this is a feature. This is a feature.
This is when I've talked to other women about like setting boundaries on dating sites, because I had a girlfriend who was always like, oh, I'm going to go over to his house for a first date. I'm like, I shouldn't do that. And she's like, oh, and he wants me to talk dirty before we meet up. I'm like, oh, shouldn't do that.
Absolutely not.
And she would say, but what if he doesn't like me? And I'm like, that's good, because he's filtering for someone who has no boundaries. He is actively looking for someone who's going to put up with this, that, or the other.
And I would rather know at the front end whether you don't like me rather than be in a relationship with you for, I don't know, 5 to 10 years and know that the whole time you didn't like me.
It's just not worth it to try to get everybody to like you. Some people are not worth it. Most people probably.
But I think it's also a minimum expectation that the person I partner with will also like.
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
My partner got drunk. We were having a great time. P.S. This was like a really fun vacation. He got drunk and picked a fight with me in Mexico on our last day because when asked, I said that Pierce Brosnan was one of my favorite Bonds. He screamed at me and he gave me the silent treatment the whole way home. And P.S. the whole way home was a taxi to the airport, flight 1, flight 2. Flight 2 was in San Antonio, so another 2-hour drive in the car, no speech, not speaking to me, and continuously getting more and more drunk and getting really angry with me when I wouldn't let him drive.
But you did pick the wrong Bond.
I have a soft spot in my heart for Pierce Brosnan. I'm never going to say I don't love him. He was Remington Steele. And so he's always going to be my numero one. You have to ask yourself, is that really worth it? Because every moment up to that moment was actually great. We had a really wonderful time and he ruined it. He wanted me to say, I don't know what he wanted me to say, but it wasn't
Sean
Remington
Connery.
Steele. I'll tell you that. I mean, maybe it was Sean Connery.
I asked a partner to move in with me, and I live in an older apartment and I love it. And it's vintage and it's quirky. It's not in great repair. But every time something was broken, and we have a management company and like they'll get to it in a week or so. But anytime something was broken, it was an emergency. One time I was out of the house and there was a leak and he called me and made me come back home, even though I really couldn't do anything about it. But every time something was broken, he threatened to sue the management company for not doing it fast enough. And so then I got to be stressed about the thing not working and also managing his temper with my apartment manager and also him yelling at me. I really got it from all angles.
And it seems like you've dated some folks with anger management problems.
The Mexico story, that was something, is this worth it? I had to put a numerical value on things he was allowed to yell at me about, because I would sometimes break a bowl and he would give me all kinds of crap about it. I'm like, well, how much was that? And he was like, well, $3. You can't scream at me about anything that's worth less than $10.
Okay, so speaking of anger, he was really angry when I told him that I wasn't comfortable with him going to a concert with a woman that I didn't know and had never met.
I had a partner who thought that I was being a real fuddy-duddy about that as well. And the fact that he left me for that lady has nothing to do with anything.
I agree with you. Also, regarding your other story, our mother actually got evicted from an apartment because her live-in boyfriend, who was not paying any rent, to my knowledge, kept harassing the management.
And doing weird stuff. Bought a lot of preserved sweet potatoes for some reason that he was going to flip. He was always flipping stuff.
He stole toilet paper from Wal-Mart.
You know, my mom had that experience. I very much know that a guy can mess up your living situation, and I am sensitive to it.
To me, it sort of paints a picture of like, this person is incredibly irrational and angry, and also incredibly entitled.
And looking for things to be angry about. That's a fun part for me. I had a partner who was interested in meditation. We would meditate together, and I would frequently fall asleep during meditation. And I know that's not optimal, but I don't think it's wrong. It just means I'm really relaxed. I would be listening to a meditation app, and so I'd have my phone on my chest, and he took my phone and picked it up and dropped it on me.
Like on your head?
To wake me up, like on my chest,
so
just to let me know.
Kind of aggressively drop your phone on you. Okay.
Yeah, he would drop my phone on me to wake me up and let me know I had messed up meditating.
Ladies and gentlemen, and they, thems, that is an example of an abusive partner.
Oh, I wish you could have seen the way his eyes would get big and round when I said he was abusive.
I've also experienced that. What? Me?
What? What?
Little old me screaming at you on the beach? That's not abusive. That's normal. Speaking of angry and abusive, he was drunk and angry and smashed a gift that his mother had given me onto the floor.
Thanks for that.
He smashed a lot of my belongings, but I remember that specifically. It was a really fragile item, and he just threw it right on the ground.
You had ended a relationship with someone who had anger issues, and you were reading a book about it. And we love a self-help book in this house, right?
Absolutely.
And you shared with me, when your partner destroys things, please notice they go into a rage, they just fly into a rage and they start smashing stuff up. Please notice how often it's their stuff and how often it's your stuff.
What I noticed is it was never, ever, it was never his stuff.
Right.
It was never his stuff. My John
That's a weird
Malkovich limited
coincidence.
edition nesting dolls that got smashed on the floor.
Oh.
Those were not his. My various CDs, for some reason, that was a favorite thing
Right.
just smash my CDs. That quote is from Lundy Bancroft. The book is Why Does He Do That? Understanding Angry Men. Because that
Yeah.
book was a real eye opener for me. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm in an abusive relationship.
Okay, this is a classic that you were there for. So it was you and me, your kid, and my partner at the time. And we were talking about a project that I was doing that involved rerouting a Barbie doll, like hair.
Tell the listener more about why you were even doing this, because I've tried to tell this story and everyone looks at me with a very surprised face. Why was an adult woman doing this?
Well, that's a great question. A friend of mine in Portland had made a Barbie doll of me. It really does look uncannily like me.
It does.
She had short hair and was dressed very much like how I would dress at the time. And I wanted to update her.
Because you changed your hair.
I changed my hair, I changed my look a little bit. I wanted her to match me. So that's why I was rerouting doll hair. And it's a very normal hobby to do. And it's not wrong.
I think every adult woman has to update her lookalike Barbie doll when her hair changes.
Well, maybe it's like the portrait of Dorian Gray. Like, we have to look alike in order
Or
for the
something
thing to
really
work.
bad's going to happen.
You and I were talking about it, challenges that I was having. And he started just out of nowhere screaming incoherently about how dare we not listen to his advice about rerouting doll hair when we had asked for it. And I was like, buddy, I did not ask you anything. Even though I stayed after that trip to the museum, to the auto museum, because we were going somewhere my nephew wanted to go. I did take him aside and said, there's a limited amount of stuff that I can put up with. And I'm really, really reaching it. Humiliating me in front of my sister is not great. I'm like, I don't know how much more I can take. I'm taking this today. There will be an end. There will be.
I will reach a limit. It might be really, really high, but I will get there at some point. I never felt the same about him after that moment. I think that's the other piece. Like when someone abuses you in front of people that you know and love, or even in front of strangers, you have to see the way that they're reacting and you're like, oh, wow, this is really bad.
And also just what it says about how little they value you, that they feel entitled to treat you this way in front of other people.
The fact that they think that this is acceptable behavior. And I remember saying that to him in the car. This is not okay. It's not okay for you to ever talk to my sister like this in any circumstance. So in a way, I was glad I was there because I could yell at him.
Happy, sad.
Yeah. Honestly, after that moment, I avoided him and I never talked to him again. I was in his apartment and I would just see him in the hallway and look the other way and not
There he is.
See him there. He's here. Okay. So this is another angry person that I dated. I went to Ibiza to visit my sister for her birthday. There was a drunk man sleeping outside of a club. And my sister and I, as we often are,
because you're classy.
Because we're classy, I thought it would be funny to take a photo with this unconscious man. The picture was on my phone and he saw it. He angrily exclaimed that he knew that I had slept with this man. And this was a photo that I had taken at post-coitus.
Yeah. And that makes sense because that is a photo you would show your partner.
Right. When I'm reflecting on my trip.
So I did have a tag. I had something I wanted to bring up on the Pierce Brosnan topic. When people hear about abuse and about really crummy things happening in relationships, like they always ask, like, why did you stay? Why did you stay? And in your case, it was because so much of the rest of the time was super fun. They don't open with screaming at you about James Bond.
Even if I just look at that week, like we'd had an incredible week. We'd had so much fun. And I think that's part of it. Because of his mental health issues, he couldn't tolerate us getting along. He couldn't tolerate connection. And he wanted to create a rupture because he was feeling overwhelmed. So that's how he did it.
It's pretty cool. I was living with a guy, and I don't know if this is an idea he came for his mother. I don't know where it came from, but I took a nap on the weekend, and he told me that I was wasting my life. You are
mean,
wasting
that tracks.
life.
That sounds like a normal person. Because again, I think a lot of these folks are interested in stealing our joy. I was really happy. I remember I had my Discman and I was listening to Amy Winehouse. I was listening to the song Valerie because it's my favorite song of hers. I was under a gazebo. I think I was drinking a pina colada and I was just sort of dancing by myself. I'm happy. I'm dancing. I'm like having this moment of joy. Like the weather is perfect. The sand is in my toes. I can smell the beach air, the water's coming in and out in waves. And it's just priceless, idyllic moment that I'm having by myself. And I walk back over to where he's sitting. I remember he was smiling and he looked at me and he said, "Wow, you look really stupid out there."
Speaking of men getting angry about being told they have anger problems, which is a real Ouroboros.
If anyone's wondering, and this is their first episode, that's a snake eating its own tail.
And it's what the character OB in the Loki television show is named for.
OB, that's the way it should be. Just try and see with OB.
I do not remember that commercial at all. When I told this person that I could not put up with his yelling and his temper and it was making my life bad, he told me that it was because of his neurodivergence. And if I couldn't handle it, I was being ableist. That was really close. That was really close to the end. Okay,
so you're ableist. A lot of these are beach memories. I'm realizing
you guys did. There's this one relationship. Well, there's two relationships.
This isn't one. This is another one. In addition,
that's right. You really like being on the beach, and I don't.
I really like being on the beach in every relationship. I'm just gonna say that. If anyone wants to date me, number one, don't be a jerk. Yeah. Don't do any of this stuff, and take me to the beach. We were walking on the beach for an hour in silence. I'm saying this because this also feels neurodivergent. Because, quote, he didn't feel like talking. Because I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything until he says something. And he didn't say anything. And I broke after an hour.
I had very minor surgery again. I had my wisdom teeth out and I had some Vicodin. I got home from work and he told me very excitedly that he had found a record store that would exchange my Vicodin for records. And I said, let me recover. Let me do that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. He showed up on a vacation to a beach with no spending money. And when I asked him to pay me back, he told me that it had been a gift. This is the user section.
Isn't this the person? Didn't you ask him, do you have money? Because you'd been in this situation before.
I had been on trips with broke losers before, and I specifically said, hey, if I'm going to travel with you, I need to know that you're well funded. I'm not going to pay for this. But when we got on the trip, initially he had said he was waiting on a commission because he was a salesperson. He was waiting on this commission. It wasn't coming through. And I said, okay, fine, I'll cover it while we're here. But when we get home, I need you to pay me back. And he said yes. And then later insisted that all of it had been a gift. And I had told him ahead of time that I was always going to fund the trip and he didn't have to.
On the topic of supportive partners, well, a couple things about comedy. Like when I said I wanted to be a stand-up and I wanted to try stand-up, he said, "No, you don't, do you?" And I said, "Yes." And when I was very new in comedy, he at one point told me, "You're really not as funny as you think you are." No one is, but that was hurtful.
Again, I'm looking for a support person and instead I'm finding a villain and one of my biggest haters.
Well, and I was having this conversation because we've been comparing notes about bad relationships. Maybe this is another topic for the show. Like, how does it happen that the person who was your favorite person in the whole world, your favorite person out of all the people, how does that turn into the person who is making you freaking miserable? How does that even get there?
Because you partnered with someone who is not well. The person you thought you were dating was their interview person.
Mm-hmm.
Was their fakey wakey person, their mask person. And then as you got to know and discover who they actually are, you find out, hey, I don't even this person. Like, who is this guy in my bed? He's one of the worst people I've ever met. My person constantly criticized my favorite bands. He also criticized my favorite movies. He criticized any media that I enjoyed and told me that I had no taste in music. And I remember I was in my apartment by myself. I remember I was hanging up shelves, very happy, probably dancing and singing. And he comes in and he goes, "Wow, this band really sucks. Turn this off."
I won't say that I'll never do that, but it is only about the band Sublime and the song Santeria that I will insist that it be turned off immediately.
I had a friend who was also a hater, and I remember I had a really terrible day on a beach. Maybe I should just stop going to beaches.
Wow.
I like the beach, but I don't like interactions with people on the beach. I had gotten pooped on by a seagull. So I had just been seagulled. So I had poop all down my back, and a lot of other things were happening. It was a cold, terrible day. And we got in the car, and I'm ready to go home. And it was probably an hour drive. She put on the song Hotel California. And I said, please turn this off. I hate this song. This is one of my least favorite songs of all time. So she responded by turning it up to the highest volume possible and just putting it on repeat for the whole hour.
That's good because now we know that you seek abusive people in all realms of your life.
In that moment, I did have the wherewithal to say, I am not going to be friends with this chick. And that was, I was done.
That's good. My last one I have to share is like, it took me a long time to realize that this had much more to do with him than with me. Most of these do. Like most of these, I felt guilty for them. I felt like I'd done something wrong, but hardly any of them have anything to do with me. They're more about the other person. We talked about tall poppy syndrome. There's a very British and sometimes like East Coast tendency. Do not do anything to set yourself apart. Do not do anything to make yourself to feel special or stand out. Like, because the tall poppy is going to get chopped off, right? This person, I was just doing regular comedy stuff. And actually, I had it with a friend as well. I made a very cute, I thought, business card. In the old days, kids, you would have a business
We used to
card.
use a thing called paper.
It was printed and it would have your phone number. You would give your phone number to strangers like it was nothing. And your email address. And I had one with a picture of me on it. And she looked at it and she was like, wow, you're really just shameless, aren't you? Okay. This person had much of a similar reaction. He was like, why do you have to promote yourself? If you're really funny, you shouldn't have to.
I mean, he gets it. That's why there's so many people standing on street corners who are so funny, just standing around being funny. And then they get picked up and they get their own show.
If you're really, really funny, you can just be at home being really funny and someone will hear about it and they will come talk to you.
And you just go to parties and casually talk with people and you can build a career on that. My partner insisted that I had to equally share the business that I had established by myself over the previous 5 years when he had no experience and had attended a single week-long training on the subject. He said, you have to share this business with me equally. And we went to a terrible couples therapist who insisted that I did have to do that.
I remember when this happened, and I remember thinking, this is the weirdest thing I have ever heard. And asking you about it, and you were like, well, we're married, so we should share everything.
I didn't think that. Maybe I just said that. This was my career. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to go do a quick training on some cockamamie weekend thing. I'll be an equal party in your business. And I get to be on your website and all of that. And guess what? I got my first bad reviews when he joined.
And also, just because he was letting you know the thing you do, the thing you have spent years working on and working towards, anyone can do it. I can do it in a day.
Well, that's what he was saying. And guess what? He wasn't very good. I heard from his clients and he wasn't very good. He didn't have 5 years of training. He hadn't done additional certifications and all the things that I had done. Because anything I'm doing, he can do better.
Just like Annie Oakley. So Laura, what can you tell us? Like, why do we put up with this crap? Why have you and I put up with so much of it? It's so clear in hindsight that we never should have put up with any of this crud, but we did. And how come we did?
Well, I hear this a lot in my office because people come to me when they're at the end of a relationship. They're looking back and they're going, with their hindsight, which is 2020, they're looking back and going, okay, this was really dumb. And I've wasted a lot of my time and energy. But one thing I always tell them is, you know what? You're looking back at all the negative, but you're not thinking about what an important part all the positive had to play in this relationship. Because you had to have a lot of really, really good times to weather the storm of all of these terrible times. Because like you said, nobody opens up on date one and goes, hey, guess what? I'm an abusive narcissist alcoholic who's probably going to cheat on you. We wouldn't do it. You have to take it in the context of the whole relationship. And there were things about all these people that I adored and that made me really happy and that I really loved.
Give yourself a break because you were trying to look at the big picture.
Right. And at the time, you were looking at this as a bump in the road and didn't realize that this was a pattern of abusive behavior that you were going to have to endure for years to come. Psychology Today, Roxy Zarrabi, PsyD, had an article called 11 Reasons Why People Stay in Unhealthy Relationships. So I picked some of my favorite ones. So this is one that I do a lot. You've already invested a significant amount of time and energy in the relationship and fear starting over. This is called the sunk cost fallacy. It refers to the phenomena in which someone is hesitant to quit something they've started because they've already spent a significant amount of time and energy on it, despite it being in their best interest to change course. The sunk cost fallacy may be playing a role in your difficulty letting go of an unhealthy relationship if you've already spent a significant amount of time and energy on it, and part of you is pushing to see it through due to the fear of starting all over again. You're holding on to hope about your partner's potential rather than the actual person in front of you. Holding on to hope that the person that you're dating will change is a recipe for disappointment, but also clouds your ability to see red flags in front of you. When you're holding on to hope that your partner will change, it's similar to being really hungry and continuing to consume crumbs, hoping that it will lead to an entire meal, resulting in you ultimately ending up hungry and dissatisfied. When dating someone new, it can be helpful to take a what you see is what you get approach and perhaps be pleasantly surprised as you learn more about the person, not the other way around.
I think that's a really important thing to think about. I think that many of us have been taught that what you should do is find a man who's almost what you want, mold him. Try to look at the person who's in front of you and say, this is how they're acting because this is who they are. This is not a bad day or a good day. This is just a day. This is it. And if I don't like this, I should do something else.
You and I were raised from birth that you have to find an okay, almost good enough person and then trying to mold them into the person that you want. I remember mom used to always ask me why I was still in my first relationship, which was a decade long. And I just said, well, it's, he's my first love. He's the most important person to me. I've already put in the 8 years at this point. I am a huge proponent of the sunk cost fallacy. I do it a lot, unfortunately.
Right. One of the reasons that women have trouble with that sunk cost is that we are operating under the idea that time leads to marriage and marriage is the goal. If you have to start over, and if I want to get married,
where does that put me on my timeline?
I have a limited amount of time to get married, to have kids. Things need to happen in this order.
And this kind of ties into what you just said. So you attach your worth to relationship status, maybe due to messages received from your culture, your family upbringing, or your current stage of life. You might feel pressure to be in a relationship and consequently attach your sense of self-worth to your relationship status. But your relationship status does not define you, just like your job or your major in school does not define you. When you attach your worth to your relationship status, you are not able to make decisions aligned with your values and in your best interest. As a result, you'll be more likely to hold on to a relationship fantasy at the expense of yourself.
What's some good advice for women or men or any kind of person who finds themselves relating to some of the things we've talked about and realizing that not only is this not a good relationship and it's an abusive relationship?
Let's talk specifically about attaching my worth to my relationship status.
Okay.
Because I think that when you do that, I think it's true. Society does view you differently if you're not coupled, and people do think of you as a less good person. You don't get invited to stuff. It's not that great. And also, if you have a timeline in your mind and you're not meeting your internalized goals, it's going to be a problem. So I think in that case, you have to think about, why am I not just good as a person? This one, I think, is one you and I have both fallen for. Your partner is emotionally abusive. If your partner is emotionally abusive, you may question your instincts and doubt yourself. A partner who regularly gaslights and manipulates you is not taking accountability and will often cause you to feel as if you are the person in the wrong. Consequently, you may blame anything that goes wrong in the relationship on yourself and be convinced that you're the problem, not the relationship. Have you ever had that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. When you have a conflict, it's really hard when it's just the two of you. Like if you hadn't been in the car when I was getting yelled at about doll hair, I might not have on my own realized, well, this is a really, really crazy thing to be yelling at me. When you have no witnesses, it's easy to fall into this thing of, well, it must be normal because it's happening. It's happened before. All this must be okay.
Something that I did, unfortunately, for my youngest sister was a trauma dump a lot. I would tell her everything that he did. I would tell my therapist everything that he did just because I wanted to have accountability. I didn't like it when they actually made me accountable, but I knew that it was in my best interest to be accountable. So if you notice that something in the milk ain't clean, then you need to be honest with other people about it. Another reason is you've been conditioned to overfunction in a relationship and to fix, save, or fight for it at the expense of yourself. If you grew up in a home with high conflict and unpredictability, or you were a parentified child, you may have adopted the role of being a peacemaker and caretaker, or you may have witnessed a parent take on that role. As a result, you may have learned to associate love with having to earn it and fight for it in order for it to be real.
Yes, accurate.
We were both raised in an environment like that, and so it makes sense.
And the people that we were partnered with wouldn't have stayed with us if we weren't, right? They're looking for that. Insofar as we're able to supply it, they'll hang out. As long as they don't have to take responsibility for anything, they can always blame us for stuff going on.
Right. So this is the last one. You believe relationships are hard, and this is just a rough patch. Yes, relationships are hard and they require work, but they should not be that hard. A relationship should not require you to sacrifice your values or your sense of self. Your relationship should be a stable and secure force in your life rather than the cause of distress or disconnection from your authentic self.
On that topic, I've learned a couple things in this life, maybe like 5 things. But
one, Robert Smith is great.
He's the best. I was having a conversation with a friend who listens to the podcast. So, hey, friend, please know that sometimes your experiences will wind up here.
Please, anyone I've ever known in my life, just know that some of your experiences
that
will wind
might
up
happen.
Here.
This friend had been dating a guy for maybe a month. The guy she was seeing saw that another friend had commented on her Facebook post and had direct messaged that person to say, cut it out. And the guy said something like, hey, looking good. Something pretty innocuous. And he lost his hit and went after this friend of hers, and it doesn't get better. There's no reason for this at 1 month in.
Well, again, this person thinks that this is okay. That's sort of the thing I run it through. This person decided, he woke up this morning and he said, you know what? I'm going to troll my girlfriend on the internet and I'm going to threaten people in her life who I think are hitting on her.
This is a story about 2 women. So just so you know, women can suck as well.
Maybe not as frequently, but occasionally.
Well, that's happened. My friend was dating a woman. She was telling me about these horrible jealousy issues, fights they were having, and she was just tearing her hair out. How long have you been seeing each other? And she was like, a month. I'm like, no, absolutely not.
I remember speaking to a colleague at one point, and they were saying relationships are hard because external things happen to us. Your relationship needs to be the safe place that you return to in the midst of all the hard, difficult things that life will throw at the two of you. Your relationship should not be the problem of your life.
Your relationship needs to be a harbor in the storm, not the storm.
Yeah. Your relationship needs to be a safe haven, not a place where you're getting regularly attacked.
If you're asking yourself, am I in a bad relationship? If you find that you're finding more and more stuff to do outside the home all the time, you never want to come home, ask yourself how come.
If you're regularly avoiding your relationship, then it's probably bad. But I think also if you're asking yourself on a regular basis, is this okay? Then it probably isn't. So in closing, Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
My final thoughts are that life is for learning. I wish I could go back and put all the knowledge I have now into my 20-year-old brain, but also I would not be 20 years old again for $1 million and the latest Lamborghini. You know, we all learn from experience. And like, just to echo what I said last time, like, yeah, this stuff stunk, but I'll never put up with it again. What's weird is that you say, I'm never going to put up with this again. And then the next thing is like, not exactly that experience, but just like mostly like it. Okay, well, that sucked in a slightly different way. I think many of us have put up with too much for too long. It's time to take it to the streets. Laura, what are your thoughts?
My final thoughts are, it is really embarrassing how much I've tolerated in my relationships. It really does confirm, why I've decided to not do this anymore. The last person I dated, ticked every box. He met all my criteria and he still wasn't good. If my very best still isn't good, then I don't really want to do this anymore. I know everybody says this all the time, but trust yourself. If something in the milk ain't clean, don't do that. I mean, I have also found that, like, okay, so you were saying you'd never be 20 again. I actually would. I would love to be 20 with everything I know right now and all the training I have, because I would be killing it. I would be killing it.
Killing it in the game.
I think, we have to have grace with ourselves and understand that we're just people. We're figuring it out. This is the human experience. And I hope for you, listener, that you have found a decent human who treats you with respect and doesn't do any of the things that we've just listed in these last 2 episodes. Virginia, if someone wants to check out your media content, how would they do that?
Well, you can go to my website, bedinia.com, and that'll point you to a lot of places, including my Instagram, which is Bedinia, or my TikTok, which is Bedinia. If you want to write us, you can write us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you want to hire us for your function, we can be funny and we can be therapeutic. Probably one of us is better at each thing. Hire us at mysistersatherapist.com. Laura, where can people find you on the internet?
Well, they can find me at lauraryan.org. They can also find me on my TikTok account. I am Laura Ryan. If they want to find us on the internet together, you can go to our website where all the episodes of the show are broadcast, mysistersatherapist.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, My Sisters a Therapist Instagram account.
And we drop a new episode every single Thursday. We hope to see you there. Laura, this is the part of the show where you sometimes read a listener review. Do you have one for us this week?
I do. It's from Katie Bow 90. Katie Bow 90 said, "Beautiful, big-brained humans. This is such a good podcast. I love it so much and feel that all of these episodes are very insightful for anyone who's curious about why people act the way that they do. If you like science, comedy, and pop culture all in one place, this is a dazzling new podcast. It's also fun to hear two sisters get along and do something cool together. I live for sisterhood and giggles. Keep on rocking." Thanks, Katie Bow.
Well, it's Katie Bow, a gem of Denver's comedy scene. And now, in our final thoughts, we would like to once again reflect on the great words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn. We can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye-bye.